Hello and welcome to GreenFleet Talks. My name is Kate Armitage and I'm your host for our discussion today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Gill Nowell, who is Head of Communications for LV General Insurance and Electrics. Gill, thank you very much for joining us today. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Kate.
So today, Gill, you and I are going to be discussing EV charging and infrastructure, all kinds of topics. But before we start, would you please tell me a little bit more about LV General Insurance and Electrics and the work that you're doing with battery electric vehicles?
Yeah, certainly, Kate. So I've been with LV General Insurance for about 2 years now. I have sort of over a decade worth of experience advocating for driving electric vehicles, working on a variety of EV grid integration projects and so on. In my role as head of EV communications for LV General Insurance and also Electrics, it's my job to really try and support the transition to EV wherever possible. LV was the first major insurance company in the UK to offer a bespoke electric car insurance product. And we've really kind of accelerated our interest in EV by launching Electrics last year. Now, we're trying to make it easy for people to switch to an electric car through Electrics. So the idea being that you can just come to us for everything you need. So we offer electric car leases, whether that's personal business or indeed salary sacrifice through our leasing partner CBVC. We offer smart home chargers through our partner Indra. And of course, we offer insurance. Plus, we have a really comprehensive knowledge hub and cost calculator on the Electrics website. So we're just really trying to make it simple for people to go electric.
Right. Thank you, Gill. Now, I noticed when I had a look at the website as well that you offer your insurance extends beyond the car. It extends to the charging infrastructure and cables as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So we cover the, if you have a home charger at home, we'll cover the charging unit, we'll cover the cable. Also, if you were to have an accident, what I really, really love actually is that, if you're off the road for any length of time, then we offer an electric car as a courtesy vehicle. So it's those kind of, I suppose, added benefits as well that you get when you come to LV or indeed Electrics.
And you're right, it is really important, because if you drive an electric vehicle, it's quite insulting to be given a petrol or diesel vehicle as an alternative. And people are like, well, what is this?
Yeah, absolutely. I had to drive a diesel, I think it was a diesel minibus. It's a while ago now, but I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I would always want to go for an electric courtesy car, no matter what.
Yeah. Great. Good. Okay. So obviously you have a great deal of experience in e-mobility and in charging infrastructure. But for our fleets that are watching today, what are the key considerations that you would advise people look for when it comes to charging?
I think a lot of the time, Kate, it comes down to clear communication, through the business to employees. So those people who will be driving electric vehicles, understanding what kind of mileage they'll be doing, understanding where and how they will charge is really, really critical. I do believe that businesses should be supporting a comfortable and informed transition to driving electric. I think it's also really important to consider whether installing chargers in the workplace is an option, for example, or whether drivers will be able to charge at home. And indeed, what local and en route charging facilities are available. We now have over 45,000 public chargers across the UK, so there should be plenty of options to choose from. If we go back very quickly to workplace charging, though, there is still a government grant available. And I think that's really important that, that organisations understand that they can potentially access that grant. It's run by the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, administered by the DVLA, and it covers up to 75% of the total costs of purchase and installation of EV chargers in the workplace. So it's really worth taking advantage of that if you can, whilst it's still around.
Yeah, and especially for small businesses, and I think there's a certain number you can claim for a certain number of charge points at a certain number of locations. I think it's up to 40 locations.
Yes.
So it is quite generous, and it is worth looking at. And of course, with all grants, it won't be here forever. So so make the most of it. Yeah, definitely. It's great advice, Gill. Now you mentioned LV General Insurance and Electrics have a leasing partner. And if we think about that, my favourite topic at the moment is salary sacrifice. So why would you recommend salary sacrifice to fleets?
Yeah, so, general salary sacrifice schemes are adopted actually already by over 60% of UK businesses, perks ranging from childcare to gym memberships and so on. And salary sacrifice is essentially where employees voluntarily give up a portion of their salary in return for a benefit. So no surprises then that with EV salary sacrifice, you get an electric car in return for giving up a portion of your salary. You can save, depending on the tax bracket you are in, you can save up to 40% on a lease. So for many people, it really offers a very affordable way to switch to an electric car. Plus, once, of course, you are driving an electric car, you take advantage of really low running costs, especially if you can charge at home, plus all the great environmental benefits, helping to improve local air quality. And actually, if you live in an ultra low emission zone or clean air zone, then you're 100% exempt from those charges, which is, another great benefit. So I think it's probably a win-win for everybody. And not least of all, for the business themselves, it's been proven that EV salary sacrifice schemes have been proven to really help attract and retain staff. Sustainability is becoming increasingly really big part of our lives and the choices that we make. And surveys have shown that, significant number of employees would actually have greater loyalty to an organisation that helps them contribute to their sustainability goals. And so, EV salary sacrifice is a great way to do that. At Electrics, we do offer EV salary sacrifice schemes. We provide an all-inclusive package, so you get your electric car, your home charger, and your insurance. We've got over 100 models of EVs to charge from, to choose from. And the great thing I think about our scheme is that, you can access those cars once the scheme has been set up, very often within 30 days, which I think is quite remarkable, given that, we've heard a lot about really long lead times.
Yeah, okay. And I love it. I'm a massive advocate of salary sacrifice. I think it's often not understood by employees and sometimes employers. You don't have to be a company car driver. This is a personal perk, effectively.
Yes.
And the reason and the benefit, as you've already said, is because you're paying for that vehicle before tax. So whatever you pay in tax, you're getting that extra value from your pay packet, which I think is super important.
Yeah, and I think another great thing about salary sacrifice, Kate, is that for the employee, they don't have a credit check, they don't have to pay a deposit up front.
No. It's absolutely brilliant, and of course they'll make in life savings as well in the fuel. So, and as an employer, like you've said, the more of your staff that are travelling to work in zero emission vehicles, the better that is for your overall emissions, particularly when we start talking about scope 2 and scope 3, which is a whole other podcast, I'm sure. But great. Now, and Gill, when you were in your introduction, you mentioned that you have a partnership with Indra, who can provide you home charge points. Indra come up quite regularly, I think, in discussions because they are a smart charging provider. But could you just tell us a little bit about the regulations that require smart charging? Actually, what does that mean, and why is it important?
Okay, one of my favourite subjects, Kate, would you believe it? Smart charging is mandated under the Automated and Electric Vehicles Act. And a smart charger is essentially one that can be remotely managed if necessary, to manage any potential impact on the local electricity network. So those are the underground cables, the overhead lines that provide electricity to our homes and small businesses. The requirement for electric vehicle chargers to be smart is basically there to protect you and I as electricity customers, to help prevent the lights going out, with the added benefit of low-cost charging thanks to EV-friendly off-peak energy tariffs. The distribution network operators have been working ahead of need to manage EV uptake on their energy network since 2012. And smart charging has come about largely as a result of all that work and learning. I was involved in a number of real-world trials involving literally hundreds of very early EV drivers to really try and understand the impact of clusters of electric cars on the local electricity network. And, you know, we learned so much about driving behaviour, about charging behaviour, and whether EV drivers would accept having their charging managed. The answer was yes, luckily, in order to protect the network and avoid costly reinforcement that would potentially mean bills going up. So, you know, by having a smart charger installed at home, and they do all now have to be smart, you know, I have an Indra Smart Home Pro, which is fantastic. So I can easily schedule my charging using the app so that my car only charges off peak when electricity is, you know, cheapest and greenest, and it costs me less than £5 to fully charge my car. So that's 280 miles for under a fiver. I can go into a bit more detail about smart charging if that's helpful, but I think essentially, you know, smart charging has been mandated to protect the network, to avoid costly reinforcement, or at least to enable a planned and managed approach to network upgrades. And it means that, you know, us electric car drivers can benefit from really low off-peak energy tariffs. And it just makes charging at home cheap, it's convenient, and generally it's kind of soaking up any excess renewables on the grid as well. So altogether, it's a good thing.
It's all good. And I think you've got effectively two sides of the same coin here. One is potentially the stick, which is the network's operator has to intervene. But actually, the carrot, which is if you switch on to a time of use tariff where your electricity, usually overnight, but if it's a dynamic tariff, actually it could be any time during the day, is when you want to charge your car, because that's when it's cheapest. And by nature, then you're avoiding this congestion on the grid and all of that other stuff. So it's really a massive benefit, I would say, to EV drivers, and to be able to say, like as you did, that you've got a battery full of electricity for £5 is fantastic. Yeah,
that's right. And for me, it's kind of helped me think about my other big energy use as well. You know, not as big as my car.
Absolutely.
You know, I shift all my washing machine. I only ever do my clothes washing and only ever use my dishwasher during those off-peak hours.
I'm exactly the same, Jill. I'm a little bit frustrated because I can't do it with my tumble dryer, but then my next tumble dryer will be a smart tumble dryer, I'm sure. But,
brilliant.
Okay, so we've talked about workplace charging, we've talked about home charging, which is really important for a lot of employees. But on the public charging side, the government, and I can't help but feel that they regret setting this target, but they have set a target of 300,000 public charge points by 2030. Do you think it's achievable? And what are the challenges that we still face?
I do think it's achievable. I think the target we're looking at actually between 300 to 700,000 by 2030. You know, we've currently, as I've already said, we have over 45,000 public chargers. And I often say that actually, even if we were to roll out 1 million overnight, then actually that's not the point. It's more than just a numbers game. We need the right speed of charges. We need them in the right and safe locations. They need to work. They need to be accessible by all EV drivers, and they need to be easy to use. Now, the good news, I think, is that government is implementing a series of improvements to public charging under the Public Charge Point Regulations 2023. For instance, covering reliability, so that all chargers will have to have, on average, a 99% rate of reliability. although actually that only applies above 50 kilowatt, I think. There has to be a 24/7 helpline. You know, I've been stuck outside a hotel late at night trying to get through, and it's not a great experience. I will give a shout out to Kate Tyrrell at Charge Safe, who's doing a lot of great work to help women and vulnerable people feel safe at charges. You know, government is saying that pricing must be transparent. So basically, you know what you're going to pay in pence per kilowatt hour, and then once your charging session has completed, you know what you have paid.
Yeah.
Which is very helpful. Contactless payment must be available. So that's on all new charges above 8 kilowatt, and then on existing rapid charges above 50 kilowatt. And of course, those regulations also support open data, and they promote interoperability and payment roaming services, which is good news. I think the other piece of really good news actually is that a new trade body called Charge UK has recently launched, whose members comprise actually the vast majority of UK charge point operators, and that's headed up by Osprey's Ian Johnston. And they are committed to, I believe, doubling the number of public charges in a very short space of time, notwithstanding the issues around cost and complexity of grid connections. And I think kind of therein lies the rub to charging infrastructure rollout. You know, it is the cost, it's the time, it's the complexity of those grid connections. But I believe that, you know, and I'm sure that will be high up on the list of concerns that Charge UK will be lobbying on. And I think whilst there is understandably always an awful lot of focus on public charging infrastructure, you know, I always find it helpful to come back to the fact that actually 99% of all journeys in the UK are under 100 miles. So all electric cars on the market pretty much today will happily go for 100, 150, 200, 250 miles on a single charge. So a lot of EV drivers, myself included, I do the vast majority of my charging at home with actually quite occasional use of public chargers. And I'm a little bit odd because I really enjoy charging in public because I love the experience and I love chatting to other people at public chargers. And I know not everybody's quite like me, but you know, we do have, I think there are over 400,000 home and workplace chargers already. And for the people who can't charge at home, there's an increasing number of on-street or lamppost chargers. And there are other really neat solutions emerging, such as charging cable gullies through the pavement. And I think those kind of solutions are incredibly relevant, because when we bear in mind that actually the VAT on electricity at home is only 5%, it's 20% of public charging, you know, and Fair Charge UK is doing a lot of great work on trying to kind of make it fairer for anybody who wants to go EV to charge at a fair price.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Jill. I'm glad that you mentioned the innovation and some of the stuff that's happening with on-street charging and destination charging, because I think it is important to say, yes, there's a target of 300,000 public charge points. They're not all going to be high-powered chargers. They're not all going to be rapids, not by any stretch of the imagination. The bulk is going to come from these kind of AC on street or at destinations. And we are starting to see destinations roll out huge numbers of public charge points in a single location, which I think is very encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree, actually. I did say a few years ago that I thought that sort of ultra rapid charging was a bit of a red herring. I don't think that anymore, but I think there is a huge place in the charging mix for those slower charges, AC and so on. Absolutely, 100%.
And I think I'm in the same place as you, Jill. You know, the speed of rapid charging has definitely increased, and that actually the grid seems to be coping okay at the moment, and the drivers appreciate it, but it's not all about that. It's not always about speed. So Jill, thank you very much for your insight today. It has been a pleasure talking to you. We've learned a great deal about LV General Insurance and electrics, which has been very engaging for me. And thank you for joining GreenFleet Talks.
Thank you so much, Kate. Absolute pleasure. Lovely to speak with you.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you too. And thank you for watching. Please tune in to GF365 again soon.